kick to that one as the main source.
What does that mean?
Just that we're recording it
Okay,
to YouTube.
there's a meeting I was on the other day that he was real worried about somebody doing like AI on there. They brought an AI into the teams and like,
Yeah, there's a new app like an AI meeting note that will essentially takes down everything. It tells you how the meeting went, so and so. It's basically like as a recorder. It sends it as it says, oh, so and so spoke about this, so and so spoke about that.
It take you minutes to do everything.
Yeah, it takes minutes to AI.
One of those wanted, I write something up that sounds terrible and just click it, I sound real professional.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm using it quite a bit, you can imagine.
All right, we'll have Greg, are you ready? If we're ready?
I am ready when you are, yes.
Okay. Looks like we have enough performance, so we're ready. All right.
Call the meeting to order. This is Thursday, October 24th, 12:30. This is a Zoom meeting, so make sure everyone that participate have your camera on, and of course either activate your voice or turn it off if you're not speaking. Do appreciate that. So next item would be the roll call.
All right. Thank you all for joining us today. Bullitt County.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Griffey.
City of Charlestown, City of Jeffersontown, City of Jeffersonville, City of New Albany. There is Andy Crouch from City of Jeffersonville. Thank you for joining us. City of New Albany, Larry and Claire sometimes join us a little bit later. City of Shively. I think the mayor's on the line. Are you there, Mayor?
So
City of St. Matthews.
I'm sorry, I'm here. I couldn't get my phone off mute. This is Maria City Shop.
Mayor Johnson, thank you for joining us. City of St. Matthews, Clark County. Steve Brown.
Here. Present.
Floyd County. NDOT.
Julie Feltner, Representative NDOT.
Hi, Julie.
Tony McClellan.
Hi, Tony. Thank you all both for joining us.
Yep.
Jefferson County League of Cities.
here.
Kentucky Transportation Cabinet.
Isidro Delgado here.
Isidro. Louisville Metro Government.
Present.
Hi, thanks for joining us. I don't think we have anybody from the Airport Authority. How about Oldham County?
Here.
Town of Clarksville. And Tark. Okay, I think a couple people joined us later. We'll recognize Haley Thomas of Seymour District. Thank you for joining us, Haley.
Hello.
Let's see, Gina's from KIPTA staff. Brian's from Louisville Metro. Tom Hall's from District 5. We certainly have a quorum, and thank you all for joining us. And as a reminder, at least during the votes, please have your cameras on during the votes for agenda items. It should be agenda items 2, 6, and 7.
Also, when you are voted, please wave, shake your hand. That way we'll know whether you're affirmative or your action or your vote. Item number 2 is our September 2024 TPC meeting minutes. I need a motion to approve those minutes. Motion, someone?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. I have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any additions or corrections? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 3, this is our public comment period. Greg?
Yes, we did not receive any public comments prior to the meeting, and I do not see any in the Q&A. If anything comes up, we'll bring it up in other business.
All right, thank you so much. Number 4 then is the public involvement reports. You are Greg.
Sir. All right. and since we all are online today, I will just use this, two-sheeter, kind of give you all the information for the outreach report from September. As you see there on the left side, our social media numbers, really good numbers from Facebook, over 8,000 impressions, 962 engagements. That was really good numbers. That was helped a little bit by the tail end of our Amendment 7, obviously, outreach efforts, but really good numbers. Twitter, 965 impressions, that stays pretty even. And Instagram saw a little bit of a bump back up to 604 impressions and 48 engagements. Overall, almost 10,000 total impressions and 1,000 engagements, which is good. Really strong numbers, really helpful to see those. Website visits, September for the month, 197 for the transportation main page. Tip page saw 103 and the MTP page saw 40. Was a little bit of a drop compared to August, but still pretty good strong numbers there from the main page as well as the tip. Busy month for us in outreach. So we started off Middletown Chamber of Commerce meeting and obviously the Kentucky Association of Government Communicators, but we also attended World Fest and the St. Matthews Business Expo, as well as the two-day Middletown Fair. Really good to speak to everybody out there. Middletown Fair saw a ton of traffic on Saturday. We had a little bit of a rain out a little bit on Friday. I'm sure the mayor remembers, but really Business Expo as well was strong. So really good just to come out and kind of be able to chat, talk to folks and work that and be able to promote KIPTA and what we do. We also had a public comment period for our coordinated plan. Mick's going to be speaking about that here in just a few minutes. We did an email campaign, a social media campaign, as well as informational flyers just to get comments for that. Unfortunately, did not receive any comments for that, but overall, like I said, Mick will talk about that here in a few minutes for that update for the coordinated plan. I did get a few comments from several of the events who attended. People spoke about needing more buses and routes. One person spoke about the light needing sensors versus timers. I'd like to see that during peak and off-peak times. Another person talked about potholes, so please don't let Louisville turn into Indy. And another person spoke about bus routes out near Gene Snyder and Taylorsville. I will take any questions if anybody has any, but that is all I have for that report.
Any questions, Greg? Thank you, sir. Looked like you were very busy.
Yeah.
Item number 5 is an update on the coordinated human services transportation plan. Nick's going to talk to us about that, and action is required. So remember to keep your screen up. Nick?
Good afternoon. I'm presenting on the 2024 Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan. I'll give it just a moment to get up on your screen here. Okay, we'll start with what is a Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan? It's a way for communities to improve collaboration and communication across transportation providers. It's a locally developed process. An update is required at least every 5 years by the Federal Transit Administration for eligibility of Section 5310 funds. And Section 5310 funds make federal resources available to improve mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities. Our previous plan was in 2020. It was approved in November. The themes identified were performance, access, safety, and coordination. And we carried these themes into the 2024 update. It included surveys completed by users and providers, and it covered all 9 KIPTA counties. Section 5310 funding. Projects must serve seniors and/or individuals with disabilities. TARG allocates funding for the Louisville urbanized area. Outside the urbanized area in Kentucky, awarded by the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Office of Transportation Delivery. Outside urbanized area in Indiana, it's awarded by NDOT Office of Transit. Capital costs may not exceed 80% federal share, and operational costs may not exceed 50% federal share. And next we have the target populations by county. Our region has a little over 1.2 million people. Of those, 201,000 are adults age 65 or older, which is about 16.5%. And we have 169,000 individuals with disabilities, which is 13.8%. Henry and Trumbull counties are noticeably higher in both the categories, while Oldham County is noticeably lower in both categories. And next we have a map with the percentage population of older adults over age 65. The darker shades represent the higher percentages. Again, here you can see Trumbull and Henry County having higher percentages and Oldham County having lower. And you will also notice there's a cluster of high percentages near Prospect. And the next map is percentages of population of individuals with disabilities. Again, we have higher populations in Trumbull and Henry counties, lower populations in Oldham County. And in Jefferson County, there's noticeably higher percentages in the western half of the county. And our next map is our transit catchment area. TARP 3 uses a 3/4 mile buffer from TARP routes to determine its service area. This map shows good coverage inside the Gene Snyder Freeway. Some passed it on Dixie Highway and Bargetown Road. There's some Southern Indiana service. And noticeably, there's no service to Prospect where we have that older adult cluster. The provider survey was conducted via email during January 2024. The biggest challenges identified were recruiting drivers and funding, including identifying matching funds. Most of the providers were nonprofit, door-to-door demand response services with paid drivers, and the provider service included all 9 KIPTA counties. With the user survey, we first started to develop our own survey. Then we found a TARP customer experience survey from February 2023 with more detail and a much larger participation than our 2020 survey. There was 414 participants. Of those, 71% of customers were satisfied with bus service, but only 56% were satisfied with on-time performance. 57% said it was easy and convenient to purchase bus passes, but TARP has since then added the ability to use the token transit app to allow you to pay fares through your phone. When asked to rank the most important elements of service on TARP buses, 15% identified buses arriving on time, and 13% said the cost to ride the bus. And this is one of the most important statistics, I believe. 94% of respondents were dependent on TARP buses to get to and from their destination. So only 6% had another way to get where they needed to go. Some of our goals are broad. That's so we can have a wide range of applications for funding that conform to the plan. Goal 1 is performance, enhanced reliability and efficiency of service delivery, increased reliability of fixed route and paratransit systems, explore operational initiatives to maintain on-time performance and avoid missed trips in paratransit services. One of these could be continuous dynamic optimization, which is the software behind the microtransit study that was done in New Albany and Jeffersontown. Reduce number of vehicles exceeding useful life benchmarks, and maintain or expand bus rapid transit routes. We have a very successful route on Dixie Highway, and I'm looking forward to the Broadway All the Way project, bringing one to Broadway. Goal 2 is access. Improve access to transportation services for targeted populations. We have a goal of maintaining the existing paratransit rider access to TARP 3 if the fixed route service is redesigned. That is going to be able to protect our most vulnerable population. Encourage affordable transportation options independent of caregiving or residential services, and encourage affordable demand response services that can reach a greater range of locations. Increase or improve existing bicycle or pedestrian access to transit. And recently Metro Louisville came out with a bike implementation plan for them to improve their core bicycle network. Goal 3 is safety, improve safety of transportation services and infrastructure. Improve accommodations for those with specialized needs. Reduce the number of crashes involving pedestrians and cyclists by improving pedestrian and cyclist facilities. Improve the safety of transit service for all users, including infrastructure and lighting at bus stops. Follow the TARP agency safety plan and monitor Vision Zero Louisville initiatives. Goal 4 is coordination. Improve coordination among transportation providers, government agencies, and local advocates. We could reestablish a regional council to facilitate coordination. That was previously stopped in 2020 during the COVID epidemic. Leverage non-traditional funding streams for larger regional projects. Recently, we were just contacted by a team at the University of Louisville about a U.S. Department of Agriculture grant to help transit agencies operate an Uber-like demand response services, focusing on rural and elderly populations. We also have explore innovative ways to collaborate and share resources among transportation providers. The public comment period was a 15-day period, and as Greg said, that no comments were received. And at this time, I'd be happy to take any questions or comments.
Any questions to Mick?
Nick, I think it's worth mentioning or to everybody that we offered the TARP and also an opportunity to provide some comments, and we received a few, but not a lot. Is that right? Accurate?
We received one comment from TARP. Yeah.
It was namely the administration of the 5310.
Yes. Yes.
Comment on that. So, don't want to sit here without them here today saying it has their blessing, but TARP has reviewed this. So.
Yes, they have.
Good deal. All right, if no more questions, I need a motion to approve the update of the transportation plan. Hello,
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. No questions. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does carry. Thank you, Baker. Item number 6 is our phase shift. It's the status of the federal funding for this phase shift. And Brady, you're on this, please.
All right, so there's kind of 2 topics in this presentation. The first several slides, I'm going to provide just a little bit of a summary of fiscal year 24 for Kentucky for our MPO dedicated funds, just briefly, and then at the end, there is one more Kentucky phase shift exception request that will be an actionable item presented to the TPC at the end of the presentation. But first, a little bit of summary of our fiscal 24 MPO dedicated funds. I'll start with our STBG program. KIPTA was sub-allocated $22,659,776 of STBG funds for fiscal year 24. And Kentucky sponsors obligated that $18 million number you see there in bullet point 2, or something very close to that. I'm still working a little bit with KYTC and FHWA to determine the final amount, but that $18 million number is my current estimate for how much is obligated this past fiscal year. The $18 million number of obligation is the highest number since fiscal year 2019, that's great news. Performed better in terms of obligating funds in fiscal 24 than we have in several years. That percentage is about 82%. So that $18 million number is about 82% of the total sub-allocation of STBG funds of the $22 million number in bullet point 1. Highlighted in these statistics is Louisville Metro's East Market Street streetscape construction phase, which was $8.7 million federal that was authorized. So we, as a region in Kentucky, obligated that $18.5 million number. Almost half of it can be attributed specifically to this East Market Street construction phase. Some other good news for this year: of the funding that was was obligated. 63% of all of those STBG dollars obligated in 2024 are going towards areas that are defined as environmental justice areas in the KIPTA region as defined in KIPTA's Metropolitan Transportation Plan. 81% of all of those STBG dollars obligated in 2024 are going to either projects that are bike ped projects exclusively, or projects that are in some form of a complete street that include roadway work, but also include some form of bike and pedestrian improvements as well. The bad news is that although this year was more successful than our previous several years in terms of getting funding obligated, we still were sub-allocated more funds than obligated, which does mean that the carryover balance does increase by a few $1,000,000 into fiscal year 25. So we didn't cut into it, it still increased a little bit at the end of the year. The projected end of year carryover balance is that $124 million number you see in bullet point 2. Also of note, KIPTA is receiving a sub-allocation of the $23 million number you see in the last bullet point of STBG funds for fiscal year 25. So you have the carryover balance, and then we're getting another $23 million more. And if you combine those two numbers, that's what we're anticipating to have available to be spent in fiscal year 25. TA funding, TAP funding. KIPTA was sub-allocated $2.3 million of TA funds for fiscal year 24, and Kentucky sponsors obligated that $3.1 million number you see in bullet point 2 in fiscal year 24. So we obligated more money than we were sub-allocated, which is great. That means that we cut into the TA carryover balance a little bit. The anticipated end of year fiscal year carryover balance for TA for fiscal year 24 is about $7 million. And and we already do have programming to spend a lot of that $7 million carryover balance within the next couple of years. Another bullet point for TA is 53% of the TA dollars that were obligated in 2024 went to projects located in areas defined as environmental justice areas according to KIPTA's MTP. For KIPTA's 2024 CRP funding, we were sub-allocated the $2.6 million number you see in bullet point 1, but we only obligated $32,000. There was one design phase that was obligated in 2024. So obviously that increases the carryover balance for CRP funds to an anticipated amount of the $8 million number you see in bullet point 3. Much of the success for the CRP program, if we define success as spending the money that we're sub-allocated, is reliant upon one project. There's KIPTA ID 1109, the Ohio River Levee Trail Phase 3 project is programmed at $6.4 million for the construction phase. And so essentially once that phase gets authorized, the carryover balance will decrease substantially, but until it's authorized, it will look like a big number. Okay, so that's the summary of our 3 Kentucky computer dedicated programs. And then we have one more phase shift exception request that would have been included in last month's go round where we had the same discussion. There were several projects that had phase shift exception requests approved. This project I'll show to you in just a minute, we thought was going to be authorized by the end of the fiscal year, but had some complications and ended up not quite making it. So just as a quick review, MPO dedicated projects, according to our project management guidebook rules as shown on the slide here, you get 2 free phase shifts that you can shift in any distance in the future as needed without needing TPC approval to shift to the project schedule back. If you have to shift that same project phase a 3rd time, then it requires a special exception granted by this body, by the TPC. And that is the case if the project has not yet had any right-of-way utilities or construction phases authorized. Any implementation phases not yet authorized, we have to follow this allowable shifts chart you see in the chart here, in the slide here. So the project in question is the Jeffersontown project. It's their Bluegrass Commerce Park Bicycle Pedestrian Trail Phase 2 project, TIP ID 2084. They have what is currently in the TIP as a fiscal year 24 construction phase of STBG funds. The federal amount is programmed for $2,130,000. This project has previously received 2 cost increase requests that were granted in fiscal year 24 for the construction phase. And we were anticipating, Jeffersontown was anticipating that they were going to be able to make their deadline at the end of fiscal year 24, but were unable to do so. However, it is my understanding this project is like right at the very edge of being able to be authorized. They're very close to being done with it. And this would be the 3rd shift for this project. So the request is to grant this phase shift exception request for Jeffersontown's project here. And so action is requested to approve or deny this, specifically this Jeffersontown phase shift exception request. If there's any questions.
Any questions of Brady on any of the discussion for the wrap up for the end of the year and the phase shift? Hearing none, I need a motion then to approve the phase shift and the year end wrap up. Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second, please.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Thank you. If no questions, everyone in favor of this, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Brady, your motion does carry. Thank you. Item number 7 is a new administrative modification policy. Chris? Good afternoon.
I'm just used to standing up here. All right, folks. This one's a little bit of a different one. We've got a proposal to update our administrative modification policy. This is the group that we usually present our administrative modifications to, so I might go a little quickly on some of the current policies, because I think most of y'all are familiar with those. If anyone has any questions after or later, get with me. I'd be happy to answer those. And this presentation was made to the TTCC earlier this month as well. So in summary, TIP staff is recommending in addition to the current policy. Everything else in the current policy will stay the same. Existing small scale exempt MTP projects would can either enter the TIP through admin mods when the TIP year funding becomes available to expedite the project delivery. This is if the project also would otherwise be eligible under the group projects qualifications. So this is my presentation agenda. I'm gonna discuss the types of projects that could benefit from this. And I do have an example of one that would benefit from this immediately. We're gonna review some of the current policies and also I'll outline the change recommendation for you all. So our example is the Henryville Sidewalks project sponsored by Clark County. And this one, the funding's been freed up and they would like to move forward with the project. The issue is that this project is currently in the MTP only. It's a relatively small exempt project and yeah, it's a bike ped project essentially. I want to talk about a few historical things about this project. It was submitted back in the 2022 call for projects, and they requested fiscal year 23 PE and fiscal year 25 CN at that time. They were awarded fiscal year 27 and 28 PE and also 29 CN. So they didn't get exactly the years that they had hoped for. They would have preferred the earlier funding, and now they have the ability to get some of that earlier funding. All right, so also I want to point out the funding that was awarded is not years in the current TIP. And so that's that's kind of important because the project is not in the current tip. It is in the MTP though. So projects like this one listed only in the MTP, they're not eligible to enter the tip through administrative modifications under our current policies. If this project were not in the MTP, it would meet all the requirements to enter the tip through an admin mod and be in the like PED group projects category. But as a side note of importance, KIPTA staff want to encourage sponsors to submit projects for inclusion in the long range plan. You know, they might not have funding at the time, but they know they want to do this project. So we like to have it in the long range plan, but in this case, it's kind of stuck because we want to move on the funding now and an amendment would take a little bit too long. And these are our current policies that I think most of you are familiar with. I can go over these if anyone wants, but I'm kind of gonna skip through these now. One of the types of ones that I mentioned is the group projects policy. A little bit about that is that we have the different categories and the group projects, this is straight out of the MTP. Due to their small size, they're not individually listed in the MTP, but they are listed as a group in the MTP. So it would be weird to put this project in a group because it's already listed in the MTP. So we kind of have a bit of a conundrum there. And this is the group that it would hypothetically be eligible for had it not been in the MTP, because the project includes sidewalks, curb ramps, a lot of requirements are met for ADA accessibility. Hands down, this project would fit in this group if it could. So getting to our proposed change, our intention is to continue to encourage early project inclusion to the MTP while breaking down unnecessary barriers for small scale projects to enter the tip quickly. Existing MTP projects may enter the tip using admin mods if they otherwise meet the group projects requirements. However, they're still going to stay in the MTP and they're not going to receive a group project ID. These projects have already had public review when they entered the MTP. That's an important difference between a project like this versus projects that are entering the group projects categories or already in group projects categories. The tip action will say if this is approved in the PDFs, the tip action will say add existing MTP project to tip. Project meets group project requirements. And also it's important to note, no updates will be made to the MTP when we do when we hypothetically do actions like this. And if there are changes in scope in the project, then that would be ineligible to go through an admin mod just like any other case. So it's just for projects that fit this specific scenario that this would work out for. And that's all I have. I just want to note that TTCC saw this presentation and they did recommend approval back earlier this month.
Okay, any questions about this policy modification or recommendation on the administrative side? Any thoughts? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to accept this proposed new policy recommendation.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All righty, good deal. All in favor then of this modification, say aye.
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 Opposed? Chris, you've got your motion. But won't you stay with us now for the administration modifications for number 17, please?
Great, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so administrative modification 17. Usually I do a little bit of a summary presentation, but this one is huge. So I do have a QR code in the memo that everyone would have gotten in their packet. and also a link. So you can pull that up if you would like to. But yeah, no PowerPoint on this one today. So I'm just gonna summarize some of the projects real quick, and y'all can let me know if you have any questions. So the first two that are in this administrative modification, and it is a draft still right now. I plan to finish this hopefully by the end of Friday. So the two that were pending approval, the one I just mentioned, Clarksville's Henryville sidewalks, we're gonna go ahead and make that change. As soon as we finalize this admin mod, it's ready to go. And then the one that Brady presented earlier, Jefferson Town's phase shift for the Bluegrass Commerce Parkway bike ped trail, that one is also going to be in this administrative modification. So that's great. Then we have 5 KYTC projects. They're all tip funding, phase shift, updates, minor changes there. We've got 3 projects that are losing the design phase. This was discussed, I believe, in last month's meeting. We just weren't ready to do the admin mod at the time. The 3 projects are Jefferson Town's project 3111, and then 2 from Metro, KIPTA IDs 1353 and 3127. And then Louisville Metro has 6 other projects that are getting phase shifts or tip updates, just kind of minor updates there. And then I have, I think if I counted right, 72 project updates from NDOT, and those are, that's the bulk of the projects. I am still ironing out a few details, which I hope to do by the end of the week when I finalize it. But I put together most of the draft. There's still a few things that I need to kind of fix with the formatting and ironing out those last few details. But yeah, I'm not gonna go over 72 projects in this meeting. I think you guys will appreciate that. So that's all I've got, unless there's any questions.
Any questions of Chris on the modifications? All righty, let's move to number 9 then, and that will be up to Greg to talk about our TPC schedule, please.
Yes, just a quick reminder that our next TPC meeting will be coincide with the annual meeting of KIPTA. It's gonna be November the 26th at 9:30 a.m. It's gonna be at the Audubon in St. Matthews. It will be hybrid, so we'll have that option to join online. We will start at 9:30. The board of directors will start after that at 11. And then if you all are willing, anybody wants to, they can stick around for lunch afterwards. Also, I wanted to put out just a bug in everybody's ear that tomorrow is the deadline for the kite award. We do have a few already put in, but love to get a few more out there. So if any projects out there that y'all are really proud of in the past year that you would like to do, KIPTA.org/transportation, you will find a nomination form there. And then you can just send that back to me on my email or the KIPTA.trans@KIPTA.org email. Either one, but like I said, deadline is tomorrow. We will announce the winner of that at the 9:30 TPC meeting on November 26th.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, item number 10, the call for projects. Brady, you're back up.
This group may remember that I announced that there was a TTCC working group that had been approved to be formed last month. And that at the time we were pending who that would consist of essentially. But we have confirmed who the members of the TTCC working group who will be involved in the providing a recommendation for this round of the call for projects will be. There are 5 static members, so NDOT, KYTC, KIPTA, Louisville Metro Government, and Park will all have representatives as part of this working group. And there are 2 rotating TTCC member agencies from Indiana and 2 from Kentucky. The 2 from Indiana for this working group will be the city of New Albany and Clark County. The 2 member agencies from Kentucky will be Bullitt County and the city of St. Matthews. So they will join the 5 static members for this call for projects working group. For those of you who are here who are members of that working group, I will be sending out an announcement later today of the meeting times for that working group, which should take place in December before the holiday season. And then just a quick schedule of where we're at with golf projects. So the application period opened August 1st. We had quarterly and biannual meetings for opportunities for questions and comments on the process. Those have since passed, and we are towards the end of October with the call for projects application period about to end next week. So this is kind of a final call as a reminder to everyone to please have any call for projects applications submitted by the close of business on October 31st. Applications will not be accepted after that time. This call for projects can be for requests for new projects to receive MPO dedicated funding, or it could be a request for a cost increase for any existing projects. If you already have a project that has MPO dedicated funding and you may need some more money, or you think you may need some more money, this would be a time to request that as well. Okay, so after that application period closes next week, staff will review the projects and score the projects through KIPTA's MTP scoring model. Additionally, we will be sending out Excel spreadsheets to all of the project sponsors who submitted projects to rank their projects in terms of priority, and I'll send out information about that soon, and as well as all of the information for each project submission will be summarized and presented in a packet to the TTCC working group members, who will then be able to rank the projects based on score and priority and a variety of different factors with the information provided to them. We will take all these rankings and submissions as well as a public comment period, which will happen in November before the TTCC working group meets in December. We'll be able to take all that information and have it for the TTCC working group when they make their project programming recommendations. And then the call for projects funding awards, we plan to bring that to the TPC in February with a recommendation for project awards for this call for projects. If there's any questions, feel free to let me know, call or email anytime particularly before this application period ends next week.
Any questions? Brady. Number 11 is that fiscal year 2025 through 2028 transportation improvement program. Chris, you're back up again. Thank you.
All right. Got a presentation on this one for sure. Okay, so I'm happy to introduce to those that do not yet know, we are in the early phases of putting together our next TIP, which will be fiscal years 25 to 28. I'm going to go over some key dates and information for everyone to keep in mind. And I will, after today, I'll send out any of the schedules to all of the folks on the committees so that you can have those handy. Okay. As most are aware, our TIPs are a short-range plan. It's a multi-year program of transportation funds, and we're required to update it every 4 years, at least every 4 years. The current TIP is for fiscal year 23 through 26, and it is fiscally constrained as a subset to our long-range plan, the Connecting Kentuckiana 2050, the MTP. So the new TIP will be similar. It'll be for fiscal year 25 to 28, and like the current TIP, it'll be constrained to the current MTP. To remain consistent with the MTP, the same project scoring is going to be occurring for all of the new project updates. And adoption will be similar to like a very large amendment. The MTP is not planned for another update until out in spring of 2027 right now. So the next TIP after that one, after the one I'm going to discuss today, will be fiscal year 27 to 30, and that one will be created in conjunction with the next MTP. Okay, so the project collection and inclusion is gonna happen in a few different ways. We're gonna have our existing projects that are in the current TIP. They're gonna automatically carry over when funding's programmed in the fiscal year 25 to 28 TIP years. Fiscal year 23 and 24 programmed years, those are gonna drop off unless any of you guys let us know that something has changed and we forgot to shift a phase. Those are gonna drop out of the TIP. We're gonna be sending out lists to all of the active projects with open to public dates in 2023 and 2024. And we're gonna be looking for status updates. Hopefully that'll catch any projects that maybe have kind of fallen under the, out of attention that still need to be included, but for whatever reason, they're not updated right now. So next, we're gonna have our call for projects, which you all know we're working on that. All the projects awarded funding to be programmed in fiscal years 25 to 28, those are gonna be added automatically. You don't have to do another application for that. We're gonna put them right in. Some might be added to the current TIP, and then they would automatically carry over to the new TIP. However, call for projects updates that do not need to be listed in the current TIP, we're gonna wait on those and just add them when the new TIP is created. Okay, and then third, any other project updates. So these must be submitted by December 6th for inclusion in the initial draft of the new TIP. This includes any projects using federal funding sources outside of MPO dedicated sources. So it could be coming from the highway department, the state highway departments, and any regionally significant project changes that are required to be in the TIP. Okay. So there's gonna come a time when it's not really gonna make much sense to update the current TIP. The final amendment, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later in this presentation, but that's also gonna have that deadline of December 6th. And then our final administrative modifications, that'll include changes that'll carry over into the new TIP. Those are gonna have a submission deadline of March 3rd. So y'all can send project applications at any time, but these important dates are what's gonna get it into the initial draft as opposed to a future admin mod or amendment to the new TIP.
Chris, that should read correct, March 3rd of 2025, right?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Yes, we're not going back in time.
Cool.
Okay, so this is the timeline for the amendment 8 to the current TIP. And again, I will send this out to everyone just so that you have it handy. December 6th is that really important deadline for new or modified project updates that need to be in the current TIP. The staff's gonna review those applications through mid-March. The air quality conformity activities through late January with probably an IAC meeting in the early to middle of the month. And this sets us up for a January, early February public review period and February committee actions. It'll be a full amendment. And yeah, I think that's that for that. So then I have our next TIP schedule also. This one also has that December 6th deadline for project applications that are not in the current TIP or need to be updated from the current TIP for our next TIP. We're gonna review those over the holiday, and this one, we have a pretty long air quality conformity activities period. The reason for that is we'd like to get everything we can ready to go as early as possible, but we need to get those call for projects new projects in there too, and those have a planned request for approval in February TPC. So we need a little bit of time to get those last few changes that we may have in, and that's why we have such a long period there. The IAC meeting will likely be in March of 2025, and public comment period will be essentially the month of April. We're gonna send the comments at the end of April, and then we will look for approval from the committees in May, and hopefully begin our federal review after that at the end of May. And that'll last at least 30 days. So I don't have any action. That is just the key dates for everybody. And again, I'll send those 2 tables of the timelines out to the groups.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions, Chris, on this? If not, let's go to the director's report.
Thanks, sir. I've got a few announcements and a few things to cover on this. First, I want to recognize the people that joined us maybe right after the roll call. Tanya Higdon and Erica Tate, Federal Highways, Kentucky Division and Indiana Division, respectively. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. Kathy McCallum from NDOT. Thank you, Kathy. I know Mayor Tonini from St. Matthews was on here moments ago, so we want to thank him and recognize his attendance today. And then over in Southern Indiana, both Kevin Beatty and Claire Johnson from Clarksville and New Albany. Thank you all for joining us today. Next thing I want to talk about is to talk just to kind of housekeeping. A little bit of this will recap what Greg said. I think you all know this. There is no board meeting today. I think you all know that. It's part of the reason why we were virtual for TPC. So no board meeting for those of you that were planning to join. Perhaps the Skip the Board meeting. The next Skip the Board meeting will be on Tuesday, November 26th at St. Matthews at the Arterburn, aka the St. Matthews Community Center. That meeting will be at 11 o'clock. Remember what Greg said. Our meeting, our next TPC meeting is on that same date, Tuesday, November 26th. At St. Matthews at 9:30 a.m. So TPC at 9:30, board meeting at 11, and Mick Logston, for those of, I don't think it'd be any much overlap, but the Regional Transportation Council will be also meeting at 10 a.m., correct? So 9:30 TPC, 10 o'clock RTC, 11 o'clock board, and then 12 or 12:30, stick around for a catered lunch. So let's see. So also of note, you all should plan to have no TPC meeting in December. We usually don't, and I see no reason why we would. So this is kind of our last fourth Thursday meeting of the year, I suppose it is. So this is our last TPC meeting on the fourth Thursday. So just a little housekeeping there. Another thing that probably worth mentioning, Chris was talking about Amendment 8 and the new tip. We got word from Federal Highways that it looks like the approval of Amendment 7 is imminent, probably in the next couple of days. So for those of you that had projects that were in the KIPTA Amendment number 7, that was brought before you in last month in September, correct? Those that'll be official here in a matter of days. I wish you all were here in person so you could meet Elijah Blyles. So Elijah, try to say something just so we can see if we can't get the OWL camera to look at it.
Yeah, hi, I actually started at KIPTA a little over a month ago now. I unfortunately missed the TPC in September, but I'm here now. I'm happy to be here. I'm coming from the town of Clarksville. It's good to see you again, Kevin. But yeah, happy to be here, and it's nice to meet everyone.
I look forward to you all meeting them maybe in St. Matthews in November, if not sooner. A couple more announcements on our regional discretionary grants that we've received over the last year or more. The first ones are about our Safe Streets and Roads for All regional action plan. So moving along just fine on that. The data analysis is all the way complete. What we're calling the high injury network. So everybody's gonna have a high injury network at the end of this. That's gonna be developed uniquely for your agency. Those are underway. Some early stages of your draft reports. I've even seen drafts of that are they're not all the way complete, but the early stages of it they're being laid out. So that's good to know. Very importantly, the next meeting, you should have received an email in the past few weeks about this. That steering committee, that next meeting is going to be on November 12th at 9:30 a.m. at KIPTA. It's SS4A steering committee. November 12th at 9:30 a.m. at KIPTA. And then, just in case you're wondering, that's when we all come back together. And you should expect to hear from us in the next month or two about the one-on-one meetings. The one-on-one meetings were those that we hosted at KIPTA with just you and maybe your police chief or your public works directors, et cetera, at KIPTA and over at City of Jeffersonville's offices back in a few months ago. Those will be in January. So November steering committee, January one-on-ones. And those one-on-ones will start covering, kind of the solutions phase of it. So what are we going to do to fix these problems that have been identified through the data analysis? Last but not least, our FRA corridor identification grant. That's moving along nicely as well. Since the last time we met, we've submitted our what's known as the gap analysis. The gap analysis basically says, hey, what are the plans and studies that are out there? How many times, what on that railroad between Louisville and Indianapolis? What plans have been developed in the last decade or two? Well, that's the good news is it'll make our lives easier. The bad news is there weren't any. There virtually weren't any, and so that's fine. That's fine. That makes the process simpler. That is, we're starting from square one in terms of some of the prescribed Federal Railroad Administration steps as we look to continue to assess the viability of passenger rail returning on that corridor. We're still, just so you know, that the step one process, which is scoping, we hope to be finished probably by January. So January is when we hope to finish the scoping on that one. That would lead into the service development planning, or AKA the FRA step two. That's going to be more robust. That's probably a many months, maybe year and a half long, full-on planning effort. Hopefully we can get that started sometime, maybe in the spring or summer, but that remains to be seen. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know there's kind of a wide array of things to mention. If there's any questions about any of those things, please let me know now or just reach out at any time.
All right, good job. Item number 13, any other business come before this board? If not, motion to adjourn. Don't forget our next meeting is November the 26th at 9:30 at TPC. Need a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Anybody want to stay around?